Hi there, my name is Sarah from Ruffles and Rain Boots. If you are new to your xTool or to the XCS software, or you've just upgraded to XCS 2.0, I'm going to share a couple of new updates and how to do some pretty common things that I have requests for within the text features available to us. So when you open up XCS, you can come up here and check for updates. It'll tell you if you're on the latest version or whether you have a new one. So you can see it is March 6th. I'm using, or I should say March 6th of 2025. I'm using version 2.4.27. So I'm going to come up here to new project. Now, I don't have any of my xTools connected because I'm actually recording this in my car, but I'm just going to show you a little bit about what you can do. So over here, it will come up with whatever last device that I had connected. If you have your Connect device over here, don't worry about it. When you follow the setup tutorial for your machine, you'll have your machine show up over here. So as a reminder, if my screen doesn't look like yours, it could be that I'm using a different tool. Again, there's huge differences in each of the tools we're using. So we go from a 24-inch canvas down to an 11 and like 0.5, 0.75 here for the M1 Ultra. This part is not what matters. We're really going to be focusing on features. Every xTool has this text feature built within it. Now, the first question is, how do I get new fonts into xTool? You will download them to your computer. xTool will actually read the fonts that are loaded in your computer. So what I'm going to do here is over on the left-hand menu of our software, if you hover, it'll be text. And it also has this little grayed out T right here. That is called a hotkey. If you push T on your keyboard, you can see I can just come over here and hit anything. So I'm going to use the word hello. I'm going to change it to engrave so that you can see it better on your screen. That's the only reason I'm changing it to engrave. Now, when you are not selected, you see there is no pop-out editing menu up here. When you are selected, the editing menu will come up. The first section over here is going to be position. The next section is going to be size. If you don't want to maintain aspect ratio, you're just going to go ahead and turn this off. Now you can go ahead and change it any way you want. I'm going to hit Command Z or Control Z, or you can hit undo right here. I'm going to go ahead and lock it just to keep it safe. This isn't really applicable. You can turn the text here, or you can put your degrees in up here. Both of them do the same thing. So I'm going to go here, and we don't have a corner at all. So let's see. The next thing over here is just alignment and positioning. So this is arrange it front, back, everything. Then we have alignment. This is against other items. This is not to center the text. We'll get to that menu in just a second. I'm going to click here. This is mirror. So if you are working with something like mirrored acrylic, or you're engraving the back side of something, we use that a lot when we're doing clear acrylic. You can go ahead here and mirror or reflect horizontally or vertically. So it'll just make it backwards. And that is how I would engrave clear or mirrored acrylic. I'm going to turn that back. Okay. So the next section is part of really what we're going to be focusing on today. We have one item that isn't included here, and that is the curve feature. Now, there's a couple of different things that we actually have now with regards to curve. The easiest one is to see this windshield over here. Depending on what your text actually looks like, the window could end up being here, or it could even show up here. You're basically looking for a little polygon, and you will drag it. That's all. You can go the other way as well. This is really great when you are working on something in a round. And why I say it's great is because this is still editable text. So if we want to type in, I don't know, Merry Christmas. So you can basically create your own text all the way around it. Okay? That's just one use for that tool. I'm going to go ahead and write hello again, set it to engrave, and make it a bit bigger. We have our menu, or we have our item selected. We have our menu pop up. Now here's the fun. When you install a new font on your computer, you will see it is here. So I have on this computer, $24.92. So I have 2,500 or so fonts, and they will all show up here. Okay. So a lot of times what I tell people to do, especially when I'm working in design, is you will have a list of about 50 fonts that you absolutely love and will cover any occasion. The problem is finding those fonts. So as you can see, like I have a lot of categories in my fonts because I design stuff and I know which fonts I use most. See that? Best fonts for SVGs. Those are basically the ones that perform the best without any issues. You will have your favorites as well. So will your customers if you sell. All right. So you can see here, if we just select one, we can come over here and it will show us a preview of whatever is in that font, right? And so you can see it's live text. So all of these are fine. So let's just pretend we're choosing this font. Now you have a ton of options, but first we're going to come into these options here. If a font has a variable, this will be bold, italic, outline, sketch, rounded. All of these will show up here. Maybe Victoria. You see how we have all of these under this one font? This is actually a really, really great font. This is a font family, and I use only commercial use fonts because I do sell items. So this is a commercial font that I actually use all the time, and I have 5 options loaded. I think there's actually more for this font, but these are what I use the most. So you will just come here if you have an italics that you need or a bold. The next one is the size, and you can manually tippy tap it there, or you can go through the defaults. So I'm just scrolling my mouse, or you can type it in. All right. So the next one, I'm going to go a little bit bigger on this. The next one here is going to be your positioning. So this is the leading, which means I'm going to double click. I'm going to type in an enter and then there. Now watch what happens to the variable width right here when I change the lead. So if you want it really, really close together, you can move it there instead of having to create 2 separate things. The next one is the kerning. I think they actually call it spacing. Let me see. I can't remember. I think the rest of the world calls it kerning. But basically, if we want to bring those items together without individually placing them, we can do that here. And that means that this width in between each of these letters is being changed. And you can, by the way, change them by decimals as well. Now, this is the one where you would be changing the actual center, left, and right of this actual font. So if you had a shorter word, that is not how we're doing. This is real. Hello there, you. And let's say we want it left aligned, right? So that is where you center. So this is not where you would center that. Okay. All right. So that is basically this entire menu. We do have the upper. So this will just make everything uppercase. So let me go ahead and just say what that does. If we change this, it'll change every letter to uppercase and back to lowercase or original. All right. Now the next sections are a couple. I'm going to make this a little smaller. The next sections are a couple that are going to require different fonts. So I am actually going to copy and paste this guy and change this font to something text script. Okay, so right now, each of these is individual letters. And you know that by just changing the processing type over here. Back to score, you can see that the H is overlapping the E, and the E is overlapping the L. These are all still individual letters. Ooh, don't do hell. There you go. Help. There you go. These are all individual letters, right? So if we were to cut this or score this, it would score this overlap, We don't want that. So what we would do, I can change it from here. What we can do is weld that together. So I'm going to weld, and now you can see, even though we're still on score, that is now one piece. Okay. If you have messed up, you can double click in here because it is still active text. And you saw what happened right there, right? Let me change it back to, you see those scores show up. After we click off of it, that overlap is gone because the weld is still in place. Now, if you do want to cancel, you can just come up here and cancel the weld. You can redo it after changing it. Honestly, with this being live text, I don't ever cancel the weld. I just text in here. I just update the text. Okay, so now this would be ready for engraving, for cutting, for scoring, anything at all. I'm going to make that a little bit smaller, and I'm going to choose the next thing I get asked is, how do I make a skinny font a little bit bigger for either engraving or cutting? I'm going to go ahead and take, I think most people have, AliExpress is a system font, I think, but something extremely skinny. Oops, I just changed it. Let me go back. Definitely don't want that ugly thing. Is that what I had? What did I just have? There you go. There's a monoline, I think. Okay, so I'm going to make it a little bit bigger. It's currently on score. We're going to change it to engrave. Didn't change at all, did it? Because this is a monoline font. This is great for like the foil tool. If you're going to be using that for script and you want something very dainty, this would work great. But if you're cutting this or engraving this, it's a little too thin. So how we can get it thicker if it doesn't have a bold option, so I'm going to click on that and come to regular. It doesn't have a bold option, right? Is easy. All you have to do is start here in this offset. Now, watch this, because once it generates, you can see now it looks like there's 3 lines. There's really only 2 lines. And if you click enter, it's not really going to make a big difference on this particular font, but if you click enter, it may change your font. So always look and see. What we are doing is we are telling it to add an external offset, meaning create a vector that is this with whatever offset distance we want. So what will happen is if you increase or decrease, you can see how much thinner this offset got. Here it is a little thicker, and here it is thick. Okay, now I have a beginner version of this and a more advanced version of this. So I'm going to first talk about the beginner version of this. We're going to, if you're following along, I'm using Horsley single line. I'm using a 0.09 offset rounded style, which is this middle one here. I'm going to hit confirm, and 2 things are going to happen. You're going to get a vector, and you're going to have your original text. Now we know that if you come to the layers panel at the very bottom left, you can see we have a compound vector and we have text. And you again know this is text because it's got a name here. Watch what happens up here when I select the outline. That text is no longer editable because it's not text, it's an outline of the text, okay? So let's say I come over here, I grab this. This is my original text, right? This is my vector. If I change that to engrave, you now have an engravable font following this one, right? But it is no longer editable. So if you are creating something using a font like this, I recommend you come into Canvas over here and you create a canvas that either details what you did or copies like this. I would copy these 2, paste them in here, and I would write a text file that says original text, Horsley, or whatever it was. I don't even remember. What was it called? Oh, it was. Okay. Horsley. And then I would say with rounded 0.079 offset. And then that way, every time I want to duplicate this look, I have this in this file. I highly recommend doing that because it is very frustrating if one customer sees something and says, can you use that? And you can't find the font. Now coming back into our original file over here, we're going to do something different. So let's say this is not thick enough for whatever reason in your project, it's not thick enough. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually just going to copy this one. I accidentally copied both. So here we go. We're going to go and do something a bit different. And it's going to add one more step, but you may need that step, okay? So if we come up here and we do our offset, again, external rounded 0.079, and we hit confirm, okay? And we're going to separate these. So here's our chunky girl, but let's say that our chunky girl needs to be chunkier. Now let me show you the problem with that. If we come up to offset and we make our chunky girl chunkier and chunkier and chunkier, and we hit confirm, look what happens. Right, let me engrave that so you can see the difference between these two. You have lost the majority of the inside, right? You've lost that because no matter if you choose inner or external, it doesn't matter. You're going to lose it because you're making it chunkier. The good news is that this is a vector. So if we go back to score, see that? You can go to edit this vector, and I'm going to hit Command plus to zoom in. You can do the zoom in the bottom toolbar as well. I'm holding down space and using my mouse to move the entire canvas. So now coming in here, if I just wanted these inserts, right? I just want the inside of the H and etc. I can just delete every single one of these outer lines. We're not going to do that. It's going to take too long to do it individually, but basically you can just highlight all this stuff and delete it. And then you will be left with only the inside lines, right? So let me hit done. Okay. And then if we release that compound vector, see this? Then I can take this. Is that for the H? Yes. So here you go. This is one big solid block. Now I can take this. I can put it over here. I'm actually going to make that a different color so you can see it. And I'm going to bring it to the front. There you go. So you can position it manually. Now watch what will happen. I'm going to select both of these. I'm going to hit subtract at overlap, and then it'll cut that back out. Okay, so just FYI, this is a question I've gotten and I've answered via email. So this is very handy, especially when you're working with a beautiful font. Most of the time it's like a handwritten script font and you lose some of the detail. Don't worry about it. You can get it back doing this. Let's see some other font. Sorry, I'm sick. Some other font additions. So you can see this is like the changes to the software that I've been documenting. We also had, let's see, uppercase force. Oh, split text is really cool. Okay, let's say when we look at this font up here that we want the E to be a little closer to the H to sort of match the kerning in these two, well, which is different. Pretend with me, shall you? Okay, so let's say this is a live text. And again, you know it's a live text because when you click on it, the text menu shows up, right? It is welded, but that does not matter because it is still live text. If I right click, we now have this split text. Now, what this does, let me come into your menu over here. You now have 4 individual text boxes, not one text box, 4 individual. Now watch what happens. I can actually move this help here. I can move the E. Let's say I want the E. Let's say I want to make a bounce font, right? Let's say, sorry, I probably have to edit out all my coughing. So let's say I want a little playful bounce font. So I'm going to move this up a little. We're going to move this one back to, you can take these two and you can align bottom. And then let's say you want to reduce the drag on the bottom and you want to make it similar to the top. So we can just bring this one here, maybe bring it in a little. So you can individually mess with these, but let's say we want to add a different text. Okay, there you go. Now you're live again. Okay, so split text can be very helpful when you want to manipulate non-destructively. Convert to path is really just when you're ready to finalize everything and you've already made a duplicate of items. You know, that right click convert to path is really quick and easy, to be honest. I have used it a couple of times, but I'm really, you know, I'm a vector girl, so I always am in that habit of converting everything anyway. So I'm going to actually create another canvas here, and I want to show you another question that I get asked all the time. Let's just write hello. Let's go take something that is not normal, meaning let's say we want, I think I just chose the wrong one. Angel heart is easy. Let's do that one. So let's say you want, oh, you know what? I have a real example. Okay. This is a real example I did for somebody just the other day. So right now, this child's name is Amanda, and she wanted to put Amanda inside of a concentric circle outline, and I'm going to explain that. So right now, Amanda is not connected, okay? So this is a good example of why you would split the text. So this first letter is the only one that is not connected. So I can split the text and only move this letter. That's a little too close. So right now you see that this overhang is actually not very good. Let's go ahead and move it over one. So now we've got everything connected. And so right now, if you tried to weld that together, it wouldn't work, right? Because we've got all these individual pieces. Again, you can only weld the individual text boxes, right? So instead of doing that, you're going to combine it all. So you come up to the Unite Combine menu, or Combine Unite, and now you don't have any overlap. So it wouldn't cut each individual letter. It'll cut all of this as one piece, okay? Let's zoom out. I hit Command or Control 0. And now let's do circles. So you can come over here to the menu and choose circle, or you can just choose C on your keyboard, which is what I do because I'm lazy. So there we go. I'm going to copy and paste this circle. Let's say we're going to reduce it. I'm just going to take both of these circles. And now up here on this menu, here's a new feature in this program, which I love. Shortcut, align center, and align vertically and horizontally at the same time. Isn't that nice? All right, so let's pretend that's the right size. All right, so in theory, here's what she wanted to do. She wanted to combine the Amanda with this and have it cut a circle outline with the name like floating in the middle. And she could not figure it out. Okay, so the first step is to take these two and subtract one from another. And you're going to know you did it right if you change it to engrave. Because you can see nothing will be in the middle, meaning it'll cut all this center out and it'll cut all of the outside out. That's the first step. You need to get that right. If you don't have that, the next step is going to be frustrating. So always make your shape first and combine or subtract anything you need to do to make that shape. The next thing she needed to do was combine this Amanda with this. Now you can see in the layers panel, this part doesn't matter, but if you wanted to click on the Amanda, just bring it up because you want to see that the transform box around it. Then from here, you could move it, you could center it. So I think she was putting flowers under the bottom. So she actually had, let me move this up. Okay. So I just remember she had multiple points and the little girl's name was Amanda. So I'm going to pop this up. And this is just a design thing. You want to have this name touching in multiple places, especially something this thin, because it would break otherwise. All right. So let's say this is what she wanted. So now you just select the name, which is welded. It is no longer editable, and select the shape, and you're going to combine unite. So I hope that helped to answer some of your questions on text. If you have more, do let me know. So I will have a video coming about how to join non-script text. There's a couple of things in there. You do not need Adobe products like this, so watch for that on the channel. I am beyond impressed with the way that xTool has been updating their software. It has been a very neat thing to see this software really being transformed. But anyway, if you want to see how to make a keychain with the offset text, I have that on my XCS playlist here on the channel. Do check out that playlist if you are new to XCS. There's things like the Smart Materials Guide. There's a lot of stuff in there about using masks and really digging in about how to get the look that you want. If you have any questions or suggest a video, leave it down below. Thank you so much for watching, and please subscribe.